Alright, so today what I wanted to do was take a little bit of a break from Resident Evil and talk about another Capcom series that has a fairly large conversation online, especially over the past few years, ever since the kind of 2 remake release. This has really been kind of questioned and kind of people are wondering where it is, and this is the Dino Crisis series from Capcom way back in the day. A little bit of context for people who may not have played it or are not particularly following what the game is. It is another survival horror game developed by the people behind the original Resident Evil game. And in this game you follow the role of Regina, who is the main character, and you are basically sent in with your team to investigate an island facility that's doing weird things and is overrun by dinosaurs. Not zombies, dinosaurs. Quite a different thing. It follows a lot of the same kind of similar gameplay, similar layouts, stuff like that. It is kind of very similar to Resident Evil in a way, but almost entirely separate, because it's the original, it's a dinosaur game, not a zombie game. It's a bit more action focused, I would say. It still kind of has horror. For example, this takes me way back, when I was a kid. I actually got spooked by this game a little bit when I first started playing it. I did have it on the PlayStation 1 back in the day, so I have played it. It has been some time, but it's a good game. It is a very good game, and people are wondering, is this series going to make a comeback? Whether it's a new game or they're going to remake the first game, because people love it. It was a huge success back in the day. So we're going to go over some ideas on what they could do, and without further ado, let's jump into it. So I would say probably the most important thing for people who want a new game in the series or a remake is the perspective they choose. As you know, the 2 and 3 remakes of Resident Evil are kind of third-person, over-the-shoulder type games, and 7 and 8 are first-person. I see no reason why a Dino Crisis remake wouldn't run on the RE engine, which is used, in a lot of Capcom games now, not just Resident Evil. It's in RE7 and RE8 and 1 and 2 remake, 1 and 2, 2 and 3 remake, as well as Monster Hunter Rise also uses it as well on Switch. So it's a pretty good engine they have now, and again, there's no doubt that this game would run on that as well if it was a remake or a new game. And I think most people would probably want this in third person. People like the character, people like Regina as a character, and she is pretty cool, and I think having the game remade in first person would be terrible. A new game in first person would be interesting, but a remake, probably best to put it in third. One thing about the game as well that I've kind of researched and found out is way back when it was kind of being talked about and advertised and stuff like that, the team making it wanted to not class this as a survival horror game, rather a panic horror game. Essentially what that means is, with a survival horror game, you've always got to be kind of cautious on what's around the next corner, or your ammo reserves, your health, and that does play a part in this game as well. You have to kind of be sparing on ammo and healing, because it's not unlimited. But rather in this game, because obviously it's dinosaurs you're fighting, the action is sudden, and you have to kind of think on the fly about what you're going to do, rather than like in Resident Evil where you kind of build up stuff because you know something's about to happen. This game just kind of throws it at you. More similarities that the game kind of shares with the Resident Evil is, save points, again, limited inventory, a map for areas, you can see where doors you've discovered are locked, unlocked, and stuff like that, as well as reasonably good puzzle areas. Obviously if you've played RE1, whether it's original or remake, and 2 as well, I'll probably say they're the most puzzly ones, I would say, out of the Resident Evil games. That might be completely false, but that's just how I see it. And a lot of those type of things are in this game as well, so it does share a lot of similarities, while at the same time being its unique thing. Another thing to add is this will probably be classed under cutting and changing content, but some of the criticisms the game received at launch, and this is a very small amount, it's just stuff you can find online, is the variety of enemies was quite small in the first game. Obviously there was these big moments where a new enemy type would appear in the form of a boss, or be introduced and then come back every now and again throughout the game. But it was very limited to just the same kind of enemies throughout the game. Not a bad thing, obviously, because the game's more it is more action focused in a sense, but you know, at the same time you have to still be paying attention to your ammo count and stuff. So plus the dinosaurs, you know, not zombies, they're a bit more capable of killing you, and they're probably a bit more tankier as well, I would say. So you really have to kind of be paying attention. So I don't mind the enemy variety being so small. I believe, from what I can remember and what I've seen people playing, is the amount of enemies is what counts, not the variety. Like, if you get put in a room with like 3 or 4, that's a lot to deal with, but if you were put in a room with 3 or 4 different types, it would be more annoying, so it makes more sense for there to be a limited amount of variety, but the numbers of them is a bit more, you know, up there. But yeah, that's essentially the game, and you know, how it plays, what it's about, and stuff like that. So now I'm going to go over the usual kind of remake issues. I think I've gone over these a couple of times, you know, throughout the Resident Evil videos, and talking about the 4 remake specifically, as well as, you know, the 3 remake as well, because that's a good example of what not to do. So we're going to go over a couple of things, and just kind of lay it all out there, I guess. First thing being, this game has a following, you know, people love these games, you know. I've played the first 2, I don't think I played the 3rd one, but they're good games, you know, they are really good, enjoyable games. Are they dated now? Of course, but this is what happens over time. But again, with a remake of something like this that, yeah, again, was a success back in the day and people loved it, you have to be aware that people are going to be looking at this so closely if they announce a remake. It's the same with Resident Evil 4. That game is held in high regards as the best in the series. Not personally for me, but a lot of people would hold 4 up as the best one. So remaking that is a lot of pressure. Look at what they did with 3. Again, it's same with every game in the series, probably. People will always prefer one to the other, and I'd imagine the people who like 3 the most were quite disappointed with the remake. You know, it cut out a lot of stuff, it changed things. It was about 4 hours long. That's on a normal playthrough of doing everything. It's about 4 to 6 hours long. It's not a long game. And yes, the original wasn't long, but a lot of the stuff from the original is gone. So, you know. I think with remakes in general, you know, not just Capcom remakes, you know, look at what's come out recently. We've got a Splinter Cell remake that's been announced. You know, Splinter Cell, the stealth game from Ubisoft, that if anyone's ever played it, it's actually really good. A lot of pressure's probably on that as well to be good and be the same as what it was. They're also remaking a Prince of Persia game, the original Sands of Time, for the 3 trilogy games, at least, not the original Prince of Persia. Again, people are going to like these games. People like these games how they were, and having them remade is a danger point, because you want to make sure it's done correctly. Not everyone's going to be happy. I would imagine that when the Resident Evil 4 remake does come out, and if it is, you know, as a good game, is just as good as the other one, people will complain. They'll find something about it that's just not as good as the original. It happens. You can't please everyone. But what you can do is just try and remake it so closely to the original, and just try and make it so, like, on par with it, so that most people will be happy with it. You don't want to throw out a half-finished, completely cut out game that everyone's just going to bash, because after finally seeing it and playing it, it's not what everyone thought it was going to be. Moving on to kind of going into more depth about cutting out things and adding things, one of the prime examples I can, again, see with that is Resident Evil 3 Remake. A lot of portions of that game were cut, things were changed near the end. It was almost a new game in the last half, for the most part, which is annoying. Something else that's coming out that has been talked about in terms of cutting out things and adding things is the Dead Space remake. They are going to cut things out and add new things in for the new experience. They want it to be a new experience as well as an old one. I think that's okay as long as most of the game is the old game. You know, people are playing a remake, not a new game. They are buying it because it's a remake of something they loved. You can't do both. Pick one, either make a new game or remake a game. Pick one of the two things, because putting them both together sometimes isn't the best move. So I think with Dino Crisis, probably the best advice I can give, and I know that Capcom is not watching this video, so this is not directly to them, but my personal advice would be keep it as original as possible. Keep the perspective the same, obviously not camera angles, but keep it third person. Weapons the same. Keep the enemy types the same. Let the story play out the same. cut things out that may be unnecessary, like if there's a portion of the game where it doesn't really make a difference to the story, and you want to cut that out and add something in, that's fine. Don't take out important things. Add new things if it makes sense. Obviously, the RE2 remake is not a back-to-back copy. There is things in the RE2 remake that are different. So, and it makes sense, and people love the Resident Evil 2 remake. You know, I'm one of those people. It is really, really good. So add and change things where it makes sense to. Don't do it just because it'll make the game feel new. You know, people want to play a remake after all. But yeah, that's going to be about it. I just wanted to kind of ramble about the potential Dino Crisis remake. People want it to happen. I, for one, would like to see it happen. I know a couple of people that I talk to daily that really want to see it happen. It's potential that it could happen. There's potential that it could not. I think that maybe Capcom realised that they could do it on top of the success of the Resident Evil remakes. Obviously 2, 3 did sell, although 3 didn't really feel as good a game. They did sell. And I'd imagine the 4 remake would explode in sales points. At the end of the day, they're a business, they're a company, they want to make things to make them money. So, even if that ends up being dog shit. So, if they see opportunity with it, they'll probably do it. So, I would say to keep an ear to the ground on it, because maybe they'll say it one day, and maybe they won't. But a lot of people want to see it. There's conversations about it most days, about people wanting to see a remake of Dino Crisis. So, we'll see what the future holds with it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts on Dino Crisis Remake in the comments below. I'd love to see if people want to see one or not, because again, there's a 50-50 conversation about it. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.